Hi, in today's video, I discuss the feeling, the emotion of being overwhelmed. I talk about what it is, how it manifests itself physically, and what we can do to avoid feeling overwhelmed, as well as what to do when we actually are overwhelmed. So if you're interested, please stay tuned. Hi, my name is Palesa. Thank you for tuning in to yet another video. To my returning subscribers, I want to say hey, thank you for tuning in again. If you're watching one of my videos for the first time, I really hope that you enjoy it. And for those of you who keep watching but have not subscribed yet, I'm asking you to please press the subscribe button below and continue to support my channel, because then I know that I am producing content that people appreciate, and it encourages me to continue to make such content. Now, going on to what I want to talk about today. So as I said in the intro, today I want to talk about the feeling and the experience of being and feeling overwhelmed. Now, the reason that I thought to create such a video is because I know that, this is November, and over the course of the year, I am sure that you have had moments, things have come, to you, you had experiences which have led you feeling overwhelmed. Now, being overwhelmed is when you are completely submerged in your thoughts and in your emotions about your current life problems, to the point where you feel frozen, paralyzed, and to a certain extent you feel ineffective in the things that you have to do. It is when you believe that your life is too much to handle, when you feel that your finances are too much to handle, your debt is too much to handle, your family situation is too much to handle, when you feel that the things that cause you stress are too much to manage. Now, when you come to that place of thinking and feeling, that is when we say that you are overwhelmed, that you feel overwhelmed. I want you to imagine with me that you are completely submerged and are drowning in, a set of issues and problems, and you're trying to swim out, you're trying to come out, you're trying to reach out for help, but there is no help that is available. And that is what it feels like to be overwhelmed, when it's like you were drowning in stress, and you were drowning in, I've heard people say drowning in debt, and drowning in stress, and drowning in assignments, whether it's work or school, whatever, but you just feel that you cannot handle the amount of work, the amount of issues, the amount of pain, the amount of things that are before you. Now, there are several things that lead to feeling overwhelmed. Now, these are a whole range of things, and I'm not going to give you an exhaustive list, but I'm just going to give you a few things to give you an idea of what can cause a person to feel overwhelmed. Now, we feel overwhelmed when we have a very demanding job, when we have financial stresses, when we have either physical or mental illness. We feel overwhelmed when we have relationship issues, when we haven't been, sleeping well over, a long time. Like it seems like there's a habit of, having a lack of sleep. We feel overwhelmed when we have experienced some sort of personal trauma. There are two things that mainly lead to the feeling of being overwhelmed. Now, these two things are anxiety and stress. Now, I'm going to ask you to please allow me to explain exactly why it is and how it is that we have this feeling of, overwhelm. Please excuse me as I do my best to explain the science behind being overwhelmed. Although, it is an emotional, it's an emotional phenomenon, but it many times manifests itself in the physical. And the reason for this is because the mind doesn't know how to differentiate between psychological threats and physical threats. It responds to those two kinds of threats, all kinds of threats, in the same way. Now, the way that the mind and the body responds to anything that seems threatening is that it releases a hormone called cortisol. Now, the hormone called cortisol is also known as the stress hormone. So what happens is you are feeling, this threat that's coming to you. Now, this is anything that is threatening your general sense of well-being, whether it is, like I said, relational issues, whether it is financial issues, whether it's a passing of a loved one, whether it is a demanding job. Now, there is this threat that is coming against you, and the mind, perceives this threat and releases the stress hormone. Now, as the stress hormone is released in your mind and in your body, at the same time, what happens is the feel-good hormone called serotonin, it decreases. Now, one of the purposes of the feel-good hormone is that it decreases depression and decreases anxiety. But as you know, the thing that decreases anxiety gets less in the body. The one thing that increases anxiety in your mind and in your body goes up, and that is why we end up having this great sense of feeling and anxiety. You have a heightened sense of anxiety. When this happens, feelings and thoughts of hopelessness, despair, anger, worry, all these kinds of feelings, they start, overwhelming our mind and filling our minds. We start having physical symptoms, such as, sweating, and, some people start having, feeling that they have a short breath. It can actually get to the point where a person feels like, they're having chest pains because of this change of hormones, because of the threat that is perceived by the mind. Yes, and that is why we feel the way we feel when we say that we are feeling overwhelmed. Now, there are various things that leave us vulnerable to feeling overwhelmed. And in this video, I'd like to discuss 3 of them. Now, the first one is setting unrealistic expectations of yourself. The second one is having unhealthy boundaries, that you've set unhealthy boundaries. And the third one is that you have not given yourself enough TLC. Now, I just want to briefly go over these 3 points. I said the first one is that you have set unrealistic expectations of yourself. Now, when I say this, what I'm talking about is, to a certain extent, you think that you can do more than you actually can. You have set an expectation of yourself that you want to be perfect. You want things to be just right. And it is important to know and remember that nobody's perfect. We all have flaws, and we all have a certain set of capabilities and abilities, and it is very important for you and I to know and to be in tune with what we can and cannot do. Otherwise, we'll set a goal for ourselves that when we try and reach for it, we as opposed to growing and stretching and getting stronger, we end up breaking ourselves and feeling overwhelmed because we have set unrealistic expectations of yourself. So in order to combat this, it is important to know what you can do, to be honest with yourself, to extend grace to yourself, to be forgiving to yourself, and so that you do things that you can do without hurting you and breaking you, and to have realistic expectations of what you can and cannot do. Now, the second thing that I had said of the reasons that we feel overwhelmed, the things that make us vulnerable to being overwhelmed, is that you have set unhealthy boundaries. You have committed to too much, or it might be a matter of you not being able to say no. I know that there's some people who struggle to say no. Someone will ask, can you do this for me? Can you do that? Please go there. Please do this for me, please. Please. And at the end of the day, you have so many things on your plate. that you feel overwhelmed, you feel unable to, effectively do all of these things. Now, you may have the ability to do these things. It may not be a matter of, having unrealistic expectations of yourself, but you just may have too many things on your plate. I know for one that it's something that I tend to do. That is one of the reasons why I would feel overwhelmed, is because I'm doing this thing and that thing and that thing and calling that person and going to that thing because I simply did not say no. Now, the way that we are able to, overcome this is to set, healthy boundaries around your relationships, healthy boundaries, with your work life, healthy boundaries, with your mental space, healthy boundaries, even, in terms of, working out, with your body, what your body can and cannot do, healthy boundaries when it comes to your finances. When you create a boundary and you know that I will not go past this point, because if I go past this point, it will hurt me. Instead of helping me, it will break me. Instead of building me, I will end up being and feeling overwhelmed. Now, the third reason why we many times feel overwhelmed, and the reason why we are vulnerable to being overwhelmed, is because we do not give ourselves enough, self-care. We do not take care of ourselves. I know many times, people just work, go. And at the end of the day, what ends up happening is you do not refill, refresh, revive yourself. You do not refuel your emotions, your passions, your sense of purpose. You do not refuel all of these things. And then you end up just becoming more and more depleted, and you are vulnerable to burnout, fatigue, and burnout. Now, burnout is a real thing. I have seen it in the people that I love. I have experienced it myself, and one of the main reasons why we feel burnt out, why we feel overwhelmed, is because we have not, taken the time to take care of ourselves, taken the time to refuel, taken the time to be connected with the things that refresh us, in an authentic and a real way. I'd like to leave you with 3 ways, 3 strategies, 3 things we can do when we are feeling overwhelmed. Now, those are to acknowledge the feeling, that your head should be where your feet are, and to do the next thing. When I speak about to acknowledge the feeling, it's pretty self-explanatory. What I'm saying is that you should be able to say, hey, whoa, wait, I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling like I cannot manage the things that are on my plate right now. I feel like there is just too much of life that needs to be managed by me, and right now I feel like I cannot do it. So you need to acknowledge the feeling. Now, this doesn't mean that you are any weaker or any like you're not as good as a mother, a leader, a parent, a teacher, a business person as you really are. It just means that somehow, as you were doing the things you were doing, there was a moment, a time when you perhaps didn't manage things as you could have, and it is a normal thing. We all feel that way, we all do it. So no self-condemnation, but it's just a matter of acknowledging the feeling. The second thing that we need to do, as I said, is that your head should be where your feet are. Now, this is a concept that I learned from my mother. She said it once and I will never forget it. Basically, the idea is that where your feet are, that should be where your thoughts, your mind, your thinking, your processes should be. So if you are, for instance, at church, then your head should not be thinking about things related to work. If you are at work, then your head should not be thinking about things, in your family or in your relationships. No, your head should be where your feet are. So if you're at work, be present, be in the moment, be at work. If you're with your family, be present, be in the moment, be with your family. If you are at church, be present, be in the moment, be at church. Because trust me, you cannot deal with work things while you're at church. You cannot deal with financial things when you're with your family. No. So that is why in that moment, be there, enjoy it, deal with the things that you have to deal with where you are. Now the third method and strategy that we are to use to overcome this feeling of being overwhelmed is that you should do the next thing. Now when I say do the next thing, I'm saying whatever is the next thing to do in that moment, do it. If you're supposed to take one file from this office to the next, then take the file from this office to the next. If you're supposed to call somebody, then call that person, because we cannot do the entire list of things to do at one given time. But if we do the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, you will overcome that feeling of being overwhelmed that manifests itself as feeling paralyzed and feeling frozen and being ineffective. You will still be able to keep on doing that which you are supposed to do. So yes, that was today's video. I just wanted to speak about being overwhelmed, because I know that this is something that we many times encounter and are challenged with, and sometimes we just don't understand it or know what to do with it. I hope you found the video both informative and helpful. I hope that you will refer to it either in your current situation or in the future if you ever come to a place where you are feeling overwhelmed. If you know someone in your life who is currently feeling overwhelmed, please refer them to this video, because it was made for people who are going through such things. With that being said, thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.